I have to tell you that as you can see, I have my imaging unit on my desk and I have a very bright light shining on it. This is not something that you want to do. Make sure that you do this process in a dimly lit environment. These green drums are light sensitive, so if there's any sunlight or any direct light shining on it, you will ruin these drums and have to replace them. They can be quite expensive depending on where you get them, so just be careful. And without further ado, let's get going. This is a very simple process. All you need is a screwdriver. And to get started, what we want to do is first take off the plastic plate that's on the right hand side. And in order to do that, it's held on by 2 screws. And if you can see, there's going to be one right here. Then there's also going to be one in here next to the charge wire cleaner. Okay? So first thing we're going to do though is pull out that charge wire and pull off the little green tab. That will get in our way. And then we're going to take our screwdriver and unscrew those 2 screws. Okay, now that I have the screws out, this plastic plate should come right off, but what I want to show you though is that this little clip right here is kind of holding it on this metal plate. So what you're going to want to do is first kind of push that in, and then this plastic plate will slide right off. One other thing to keep in mind though is these little electrical connections. Now you can leave these connected. You don't have to unconnect them to do this process, but sometimes people find it easier to just pull this bottom connector out. That way this plastic plate on the end will come completely off and away from the unit. I like to keep them plugged in just because I don't want to deal with the hassle of trying to thread the cables back through there. So like I said, push that little clip and then this comes right off. Okay, now the next thing that we want to do is get access underneath this little gray section of the imaging unit. And now there's actually 3 clips holding this on. There's no screws, just 3 little clips, and you can see right over here this little clip, and then on this side you have this little clip, and then over around the corner you have this little clip. And you kind of have to get them all together at once. Sometimes it's easier to use a flat edge screwdriver, but I don't always like to use this because sometimes you can break these clips and cause problems down the line. I generally just like to use my fingernail, but again, sometimes it is a little bit difficult. They can be stubborn sometimes, so just giving it a little bit of a push and a pull, and those 3 come right off. Okay, now that unit, there is a little filter here that you can kind of clean out. I guess I should mention that the reason we're doing this is if you ever have a copy or a print that comes out of your machine with what looks like diagonal kind of hash marks going across the page, where it's fully developed and then it's kind of faded and then fully developed and then kind of faded, that is a clear sign that the developer is low. Now a lot of people might tell you that you need to replace the entire thing or replace the drum and the corona wire and all that. Really, all you need to do is just fill up the developer. If you don't notice any image quality issues other than just that little fading hash mark scenario, it's just the developer. But while we're here, you can also clean and do some other things inside the imaging unit, and check out my other video for that. But today we're just going to do the developer. We're just going to fill it up. So this is where you're going to want to do it, and you're just going to pour this in. You don't want to fill it completely up because this auger, we can turn this auger over here on the left hand side with this white little paddle, and whoops, I'm going to turn it towards me here, and what happens is that the developer is pushed along here, and then it goes under this silver one that the developer is then attracted to, which it then puts on the green drum, which then it goes to the transfer belt and then over to the paper. So you can see that this one here, the one that I'm working on, is very, very low, and that's okay. This is actually a bad drum, a bad unit for me. It doesn't work. That's why I'm using it for display purposes. But like I said, when you fill this up, don't fill it up all the way. Probably go about 2/3 to 3/4. Just make sure that as you turn this, it's not spilling over the edge. That's really all you're worried about. So once you fill up this, give it a couple turns, make sure it goes all the way around, and everything's good to go. And then once you're done with that, all we got to do is just put this gray plate back on. And as you can see on the front, it has these little tabs along the front. And you can see that there's also little holes right here where those tabs go into. So we're just going to line up those tabs. There we go. And then just kind of twist and push down so all those clips get clipped. And then we're going to go ahead and put this back on. The plastic plate. This can be a little bit difficult putting it back on, but it's not too bad. What I like to do is the charge wire, push it all the way in at first, and it needs to be threaded through a little hole here. And then once you have that threaded through, you can pull the charge wire out so you don't lose your place. But this little wing here needs to be lined up also, so what you're going to need to do is kind of pull the plate back out and then push back in until, remember, that clip gets clipped. Once you have that, you can put your 2 screws back in, and don't forget your little green handle for the charge wire. After that, put it